And we still have people in the queue waiting to get in. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And it's 9:59, so we'll give them that extra minute to get in.
Okay,
I'll let you know when the waiting room's cleared.
sure. And will you help me count if we have a quorum too?
Absolutely. So far, I have yourself, Wayne, and Johnny are all that I have seen join so far. And with all the vacancies, we have to have all of our members.
Yeah, we need to deal with that.
I see Melanie popping in. The only person I didn't see was Sherry, unless she popped in with a bunch of people or has a different name on her account when she logged in.
Well, she'll say something if she's on.
It is 10 o'clock and the waiting room is cleared. I can let you know when she pops on if you'd like, if you want to go ahead and get started.
I do. Welcome, everyone. We are one short of a quorum. And
Rick, this is Melanie. I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Is that correct?
No, we still need Sherry.
Okay.
Oh, Sherry's not here. Melanie's accounted for. Sherry's not.
Okay. I just want to remind everyone that, you know, if you have a comment, please raise your hand, or certainly you can, we welcome anyone making a comment or asking a question throughout this. We'll skip on approval of the minutes then. And right now we have how many vacancies in our membership? Do you know?
I believe it is 3 or 4. I did reach back out to Michaela at the governor's office concerning, excuse me, Mr. Huff's application. Pardon me, if you're not speaking, do you mind to please mute? Sorry about that, Rick.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure what all you heard. So I did follow up with the governor's office today concerning Mr. Huff's application, and she did apologize for the delay, but said she hopes to have us some information soon. So I'm hoping to have some appointment paperwork for him coming soon. So that would be one more member. So a lot of the vacancies look to be either members on a waiver program in a facility or their representative. We have reached out to a few people and have provided applications to some people who have shown interest but did not receive those back. Mine and Kelly's goal is to work on TAC vacancies this year because we know it has been a struggle. And Kelly just confirmed there are 4 vacancies currently. Hoping to fill
one of those vacancies is a representative, and I can't think of it off the top of my name, but it's
Leading age.
Do you have that list of where our representatives need to come from?
I believe that's correct, Kelly, and I have reached out. Leading age.
Yes, I don't know that they exist anymore. I mean, I
think if memory serves me, I found their representative and there was a name change, and this has been months ago, and I had been back and forth with this representative and he told me he was working on it because he's helping to appoint another member for another TAC, and I haven't heard any communication back.
Aaron, have you reached out to Tim? Did you reach out to Tim?
Yes, ma'am. That's who I've been dealing with. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's my contact.
Okay.
I was just I have several...
just to make sure, because that was who I was going to tell you to reach out to if you had somebody different. So
no, ma'am. I've got a very long email chain back and forth with Tim.
Okay.
So it's not from a lack of trying. I'm promise you that.
I agree. So we have 4 vacancies out of what? 9 or total?
I'm pulling up my list here.
Yes, it's 9 total. Sorry, I have the list in front of me, so
Oh.
yeah,
Thank you, Kelly.
you're welcome.
So you have to have, so basically, it's really going to be a struggle to get a quorum because you have to have nearly all our, all our members to make a quorum. Is that correct?
Yes, so currently as it is, everybody in a position has to be here to have a quorum.
And one of those 4 is from leading age. Do you happen to know what the other 3, what their designations are?
Kelly, do you mind, since you have the list right in front of you? I'm sorry, I should have been better prepared, Rick.
So
No,
should I.
no, so the other 3 vacancies are a consumer who participates in a non-residential community Medicaid waiver program. That's 2 of them, and then the 3rd vacancy is a consumer representative of a family member who participates in a community Medicaid waiver program. We've got 2 consumers who participate, 1 family member of a consumer who participates.
I
Johnny
think
has
we
his hand
particularly
raised.
need someone who also participate among those that participate in directed participant directed services. Because does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Does anyone now represent that group? The PDS.
not on this tack, and from where
Okay,
it
so we
is
really need one.
that would take, I believe, legislation
Oh, it would?
changes.
Well, can't one of
Yes.
those fill in? I mean, a member who's receiving a Medicaid service?
I believe that would take legislation change because it was written in through legislation. And Pam or anyone above me, if that is wrong, because I had someone else ask about just adding an extra TAC member to another TAC. And from the way the TACs were established through the legislation, to change anything, it has to be done through
We
that
can-
process. Now I
we
can double
can-
check that
I
with
was gonna say,
Veronica.
Erin, we can look into it. I don't know and don't want to answer off the fly and be wrong. I see also Johnny's got his hand up, but we
Yeah.
can check, we can take that offline and we can look into
Yeah.
that.
Okay, thank you. Because maybe a person who fits the category could also represent PDS, but we'll see.
So
Johnny, you
can
have a question?
Pam, oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, a couple things, but yeah, Rick, just what you just said, I don't see any reason why I mean, one of the vacancies, for example, is a person in a non-residential Medicaid program. Well, that could be someone who gets a waiver service and participant directs it. There's no exclusion for PDS.
Yes.
So a person could, fill that spot and participant direct their service. So I think we could, be on the lookout for such a person, but I don't think we would need a legislative change to get that, as I see it. But
Well, I was going to ask a question because the waiver world is a little bit above my knowledge. I was going to ask if a PDS participant, are you talking about a waiver participant?
They are a waiver. Yeah, Erin, they are a
Yes.
waiver participant. So I think it's really, it's not as much about the regulate. It's just making sure that we're following all the TAC.
What I
the-
suggest then,
yeah.
with those all being governor appointed, is we can always provide the application, have it filled out, send it to the governor's office, letting them know that is the, PDS waiver, the participant, and this is how they participate in the waiver program, and see if it, because those positions are also all governor appointed. So that would be
Yeah.
my suggestion, is if we do have someone to get on the application and send it over and see if we can get it filled.
Johnny, would you have any
And
way of finding such a person?
probably I'll get my feelers out there and see.
That'd be great.
I like Mr. Huffman, he's interested, and his application's pending, so we can try and talk to some others as well.
And maybe
And then
also
I
a
had a
consumer? right? One
I'm
of,
sorry,
and one of the
Yes.
members needs to be a consumer, one or two,
right.
person with a disability.
And I had a question about the way we determine the quorum or establish the quorum. So if we have vacancies, according to the website, we have the cabinet's website, there are 3 vacant spots. And so that means there are 6 seats filled. So when you figure out the quorum, do you just need a quorum of currently filled positions? I mean, because, I mean,
All
by definition, none
positions.
of but the others aren't filled, so it's impossible for a person to attend because they're not yet appointed. But we do have 6 members, so 4 of the
Oh, yeah,
6.
so,
would be
yeah,
quorum.
so the question is a quorum determined by the entire potential membership or just by the current membership?
Entire, and currently we only have 5 members.
Okay, so that answers our question. So we got to get some more.
Is that correct, though? I've known it to operate the other way.
Uh,
You calculate
that
based
is-
on filled seats.
That is not what I was told and have operated on since I have taken over. That's not
Okay.
how I read it in the bylaws. So I can take that back to my supervisor. But from my understanding, that's how I have always operated, that it is your entire seats and you have to have over half to have a quorum.
That has been my understanding as well. Okay,
Okay.
and go ahead, Johnny.
I mean, I'm just saying at some point you could have enough vacancies that you could never do business or take a
Correct.
vote.
Theoretically, yeah.
So, you know, you could just applicant, you know, seats could just never be filled and then the committee could never take any action. So that's why I'm just wondering about how you calculate, you know, establish the quorum, but anyway, my suggestion would be that we get clarification on that so we know going forward how you know, the correct way to establish the quorum is. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'd like to know, you know, how we go about doing that. going forward.
Would any of the members like to take a stab at actually changing the regulation?
I'd like to, this is Melanie. I'd like to first go to my groups and see if I can get some individuals to apply for this, because I think it would just be
Good.
lovely to have
Okay.
an actual individual with IDDD.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the required representatives, and then
That is one of the required representatives, Melanie, and I think that's an excellent idea. I think that these, as Rick said, these vacancies have been out there for a long time, and I really think as
Yeah.
the TAC, I mean, we can't as Medicaid, you know, Aaron does a great job coordinating information and helping to do things, but this is really your all's technical advisory committee. And
Yeah.
so really we need the members to, you know, reach out to Johnny. I think you've got great connections within your position. Melanie, you have great connections to try to get the vacancies filled. It's not really something that we can do as the Medicaid agency because this is your all's technical advisory committee.
Okay.
All right.
If-
Well
and
said.
One last question, and I apologize, this
Yeah.
is Melanie again. If we have somebody that is interested but is maybe nonverbal or has limited, could there be accommodations like some kind of?
Absolutely. We
well-
have that in other TACs. Absolutely. We have that in other TACs. There can be we have someone that either attends with them.
Okay.
Or we have had this in the past with this TAC before. There's also been an individual who was receiving, I believe it was the individual that had been receiving residential services, that there was a staff member that came with them. But in at least
Okay.
one of the other TACs, we have someone that is essentially nonverbal, and there's someone that either attends with him or there's always someone that can help him to communicate.
And would you mind just, and I'm sorry, I promise this is the last one. Would you mind to send something out so that I can post on the various groups that I'm a part of, to help to recruit?
Erin, can we send out to the TAC, can we just send a list of the vacancies? Just so Melanie
Absolutely.
that she has that.
And also the
And add
portion
the
of the regulation
application.
that speaks to that, like who they
Oh,
need
yeah.
to represent.
Great
Yeah.
point. Okay.
Yes, I will gather,
Thank-
Kelly and I, sorry. I'm trying not to
Thank-
talk over anybody for the reporter. My apologies. Kelly and I will work on getting a list of that. And we will also send the application along with it, and there is a link. So if it's easier for someone, just go to the website and fill that application out.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
And then that
Thank you.
way, you're welcome. And then that way we can, like I was telling Rick, we are trying to make it a goal because this is not the only TAC who does have vacancy issues. And as Pam was saying, DMS is here to help the best we can, but we do really try to rely on the TACs because these are, you're in the associations, you guys are out in the field and know these members and providers and things better than we do. So we do appreciate all your help and we are here to help. And if anyone, Melanie, that reaches out to you and has questions, you're welcome to give them my email address and
Oh,
they can
awesome.
reach out to me personally and I will try to help answer any question that I can.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I understand Frank Hoffman will be submitted to the governor's office. Is that?
It has been submitted twice to the governor's office.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Well, let's move on down the agenda then. Thank you. The number of SEL participants who have been involuntarily terminated by their current provider for more than 6 months.
Okay, so hold on, if you'll bear with me for 1 second, I'm working off just my laptop screen. So I gotta switch so that I can get to where I have that document where I
Thank you.
can see it. And forgive me, I am not gonna go on camera just because I am switching screens and I want to make sure that I can get you all the information. So let's see. Okay, and so let me, first, so I'll report, Rick, I'll give you the next three
Thank you.
together.
Yes.
Let me caveat this with a few things. One, this is right now is something that is self-reported. We a lot of times get the information that says that that a provider wants to voluntarily terminate someone. And then we find out a couple months later, maybe it was related to one incident or a couple incidents and things have been resolved now and they have no problem continuing to serve the person, or they may have transitioned to a different provider and no one notified us. We are working on some system changes to make so that we can track this a little bit better. But so these numbers are what we have right now that are self-reported, but they may not be, there may be individuals that are no longer have that termination letter and we just have not been notified. So right now, so the number of participants who've been involuntarily terminated by their current provider for more than 6 months, there are 37 individuals that fit into that category. That there were 37 involuntary terminations issued to participants listed for 6 months or for more than 6 months. Of those, the number of providers that are currently serving participants who have been involuntarily terminated for more than 6 months, there are 23 unique providers. And then of that larger, of the 37 that have been listed for more 6 months, we have an additional 30 that have been terminated in the past 6 months. I'm sorry, I just said that backwards. There are 67 that were in the past 6 months. I need to clarify with
67 in the past 6 months.
If that is, I need to clarify with BDID, and I don't know if Elizabeth, and I hate to put you on the spot, if that 67 also includes the 37 that were above, or is this 67 individuals in the past 6 months plus the 37?
Yeah, that number 7, I think the reason we asked for that is to see, okay, let's say is the number trending down, in other words, you know what I'm saying, Pam?
I do. And
yeah.
So, but and like I said,
but we don't know exactly what that 67 means.
It means, so there were 67 participants involuntarily terminated. So a provider contacted us and said that they have issued an involuntary termination in the last 6 months.
Okay. So let's assume it's 67. And it appears that over time, the number tends to be going down if these numbers are representative. However, in my opinion, these numbers are still rather high. And I think it would be good if you could refine these numbers so we could have, like, as you say, a little bit more confidence in their accuracy.
So I'm going to ask for your all's help in that and reaching
Right.
out to providers and reminding them that they need to also share with us when things have been resolved.
Mhm.
When things have been, people have been transitioned. We are working with the BDID staff very closely, because I'll tell you something else we've noticed as a trend, and I think we'll get into this a little bit in one of the other agenda items, is that people are agreeing to serve individuals. They're not even going to team meetings. We're getting emails saying, well, I don't know what was on the plan.
Yeah,
That's a problem. How do
It
you
is.
know if you can serve someone safely and can meet their needs if you're not even meeting the person before accepting them, and you're not at least attending team meetings to know what that person wants, what they desire, what they need. So, there's a lot that we will work on refining the reporting,
Mhm.
but I also need providers to work on some of the pieces on their side as well.
Maybe we can work that through CAP to get better numbers. And what I suspect, Pam, and I could be wrong, I think if you're a new provider, you don't have much experience, and so you accept people because you need the business, okay? And maybe you're not prepared to serve that person.
We see that happening, and honestly,
Yeah.
that is scary, because these are people's lives.
That's right.
These are people that have goals and objectives and things that they want to do. And just to take someone on to add to your role without making sure you can sufficiently take care of them,
Yeah.
is terrifying, honestly. And I would be, ashamed to admit it. We will help any provider out there and provide technical assistance. We have excellent boots on the ground with our QAs and BDID, as well as, the help desk. There's many things that we will do to help to support a provider to serve individuals.
Hey, Pam, this is Melanie. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Can we get just an overall list of the reasons why the category specific to the involuntary terminations?
I'll work on, we can work on pulling that together based on the information, what we have. We'll work on pulling that together. I can tell you a lot of them are related to behaviors.
Yeah.
And what we will see sometimes is a plan where someone is in residential, and so they're going to the residential provider's ADT, but they may not be getting behavior therapy services.
Okay.
Through state plan or through the waiver, but we can work on pulling that together. I think that's a good request and a way to look at, addressing, maybe starting to get to the root cause and addressing it.
Okay.
Now,
Thank
and
you.
I understand there are individuals that are difficult to serve, and we're wanting to work with providers that on, what kind of education, what kind of additional supports provider needs to be able to serve maybe individuals with challenging behaviors, or individuals that may have medical, some medical conditions in addition to, their ID diagnosis, and what kinds of wraparound services that are available to support them, or how we can just support the provider in general, and helping them to find, training, additional training or resources. So it's all about being a team to serve the individual.
Right. And Pam, you know how I've stated this, the way the regulation is written, in which if you accept someone, then you have trouble terminating them until other provider is willing to pick them up, really creates a disincentive to serve people who might be difficult to serve. okay?
I agree. I want you to think about it the opposite way. If there's not any protection at all in the regulation, we have providers that dump individuals at ERs and that dump them
I know.
Oh,
and they
gosh.
Right.
become homeless.
But-
So
but
it's a
we-
double-edged sword. So it's a very, I mean, it's a thing. And I know you've reached out to a couple other states, and I think it's something that needs to be tackled. And I think it's a good topic for this group to look at. You know, what are other states doing, and what can we do that is supportive of both the provider population and our participant population?
Yes, or you remember we used to have a task force, Pam, that was looking at this issue. I don't know, but I'm glad you agree with me that it's a serious problem and a scary
Yeah.
problem. And
And Rick, this is Melanie again. Being someone that was a recipient having a loved one that was a recipient of this whole scenario a long time ago, it's awful to go through. And
Yeah.
and what I learned from that journey with my loved one is that the behaviors were created as a result of them not understanding how to interact. Does that make sense with my loved one? And so, but on the flip side of it, I basically was asked, they just kicked us out. And it was a horrid experience to go through
Right.
as a caregiver.
Sometimes
and-
finding a root cause of the
Yeah.
behaviors is the key to success. And that's why I think sometimes we see that things do get resolved,
Yeah.
but we're not ever told on the back end. So
Yeah.
finding the root cause is very, very important with these individuals.
Okay, I tell you what, let's first refine these numbers and see exactly how big the problem is, okay? Start with that. Pam, does that make sense?
We will try our best to get, I
Okay.
don't know until
And
we
well, I
have
guess that's what
something.
that's what you want us to do too. You want us
Well, I
to,
think we need to do it at the same time, Rick,
That's
because
right,
I don't want to waste time on.
That's
we-
right,
we
that's
will
right,
certainly take
that's
the
right.
numbers
This
back, and
is-
we will certainly work on it. But I
this is-
don't want to not have forward progress while we're
Right.
working on
Right.
that. And we are working on some system changes and some ways to collect that data differently.
Mhm.
But those take some time. They've been in progress. So, I mean, we're closer, but I don't want to lose time getting to root causes and possible solutions while we're trying to get to numbers. Either,
yeah.
because if it's one, or if it's still a problem, right?
That's
It's
right.
still a problem that needs to be addressed, regardless of what the end numbers need to be. Now, it may be a more severe problem, or it may be a less severe problem, but it's still a problem. So,
Is Amy stayed on the line? Well, I'm just thinking this is something we could work through with CAP. Does anyone agree with me?
I would encourage you to make sure you're reaching out to all providers, even those that are not members of CAP.
And how do we,
I would use, Johnny, is there a way that CCDD can potentially help? Or, I mean, I would work with, there's something that we can send out through our distribution list, but I would encourage you not to limit it to a certain group of providers. It really needs to be anyone that is serving this population.
Johnny, okay, so you think Johnny might have access to such a list of all the?
I do not, yeah, the council does not. It's more self advocates and families and
But I
advocates.
think though, through families, Johnny, you could tackle it that way, correct? I mean, you could ask for information, just as Melanie shared her story. I think that you need to ask for, it doesn't need to just be the provider's point of view. I think we need to reach out to the individuals that are being served and the people that advocate for them and that are their families and supporters. What is their experience? What do they, this is a multifaceted.
Agree,
thing,
I
and
can do
think
that
it
part.
needs- Right.
Agree. Yeah, I can help with that part, but not the provider side part. But, and it could be, I think one maybe easier way to do it is, in the form of a survey, Survey Monkey or something. If we have 5 or 6 key questions we want to ask and get responses from, and then we would have data.
Yeah, if you all would like to share that, and then we can work on, sending it out through our distribution list. as well, because, you know, we have contacts of the providers that are certified, so, but I want to make sure that we are asking, you know, I know the questions that I want to ask, but I want to make sure that that you're all, you know, if there's something that would be included in that, that I'm not thinking of, that is also, that is also included.
Pam, this is Melanie again. Is mediation a part of this whole process? Like if the agency, the provider involuntary terminates as a function of like due process, to be real honest, would mediation be something that could be requested so that the two parties sit down and discuss the issues and concerns around that individual?
I think that's something that can be discussed. I mean, I don't know that, honestly, Melanie, I don't know that anyone has brought that up, but to me, that sounds like something that should be happening today. And I think probably we do work on that. Probably the QAs work with the providers, but making that a more concrete process. It you know, kind of goes along with the grievance process for individuals. You know, if they have a grievance with the provider, making sure that is addressed and handled. So.
I'm an old KDE mediator, and I saw some pretty, sometimes it didn't work, but sometimes staff and families could come together with some possible resolution. So I don't know if it would work in this situation or not, but I've seen it work in other venues.
Yeah, and if nothing, remember, Pam, if we could really know what that 67 number means too, because if it's actually 30, that's an indication that we're not seeing a lot of movement on the number of people. Does that make sense? That the number of people who have been involuntarily terminated, it doesn't go down much in the first 6 months.
Right. Like I said, based on
Yeah.
those numbers, yes, it looks like it has not went down much. But again, we have found as we start digging into notes and looking at things that sometimes those individuals have already transitioned
Right.
to different services or it's been resolved. So yeah, I would agree. Yes, we will work on refining those numbers as best that we can.
Does anybody else, Wayne Harvey, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here, Rick.
Okay, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think we're headed in the right direction. You know,
Okay.
once we get the information together for the survey, let's put it out to everybody and see what.
I guess that's the question. How do you think we should get the information for the?
Yeah, I
the
think if
survey.
we're going to reach all providers, you have to do it through a mechanism that can reach all providers, and you know, not all providers are members of CAP, so I don't think that's the way to do this. I think I agree with Pam's assessment and with Johnny's assessment. You know, it has to go to all providers, so we have to utilize a mechanism that could reach all providers.
And are you familiar with any mechanism that does that?
Well, Medicaid can reach all providers. If we create the survey and we give it to Medicaid, then they should be able to distribute it for us. I don't know that you can make it a mandatory thing. I think it would probably be something that you know, we're asking providers for voluntary information on.
Would that be possible, Pam? That you would distribute the survey?
Yes, I think what I mentioned earlier is if you all get me the questions, because I don't want to speak for you all, that we can work on using our channels to distribute.
Okay. Next,
Pam, would you also be able to distribute to participants?
Yes.
I mean, we have a limited, you know, not everybody.
We can use our, so we can use our, like the email where participants and advocates sign up for the email distribution list.
Sure.
It's hard to, I would say, you know, mail usually doesn't work in this case because, there is you would not believe the amount of returned mail. So plug for telling individuals that you support to make sure their address is updated with DCBS. Because the amount of returned mail. However, we also probably could look at doing something where we create a link where individuals could go to, and we could share that with like the case managers, and we could share that with that overall, that big distribution list too. So I think there's some ways we can get around that maybe, and to try to reach more individuals.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, not send out, paper surveys in the mail, but yeah, a quick and easy link to a survey that folks can go to and answer and then submit, and then you get more data that way than we would be able to get, just because you have access to more folks who are signing up for cabinet emails and news.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, CareWise prior authorization letters of intent.
Okay, so I need some help with that. I don't know.
Right, well, this
That's
was.
supposed to be lack of information.
What, I don't know, this, I asked Amy Stade if she had some ideas for the agenda. And she listed several, and I'm disappointed that she's not on this call to help with
Why?
these.
So maybe we need to get clarification from her. One thing I will say on this before we move on this one is, if it's related to lack of information, I will tell you that there have been several lack of information letters going back to providers, but one of the things that I mentioned it earlier, we would talk about it later, is we're getting plans of care where servicing providers, the goals and objectives are very generic. They're asking for the max amount of units. We're asking for justification and support. And what we're getting back from the provider is, I don't know, I've never met them. I didn't go to the team meeting. I have no idea. So let's get clarification from Amy. And then we'll look into that. We have at least weekly meetings with CareWise. The staff that are reviewing the waiver reviews, we do quality reviews on the back end. I will tell you that so far have been very pleased. CareWise took this, when we handed waiver back to them, they took it as doing it from scratch. We trained them from the very beginning. There was no assumptions about what they knew or what they thought they knew. They said, to us and we to them, we want this to be like you've never done this work before. We've built extensive resources for them. So I just need, some information, and, if there's someone that needs to be retrained, whether that is on a submitter side or on a reviewer side, we'll address that when we get that information. And if she meant letters of intent, I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, I just got a message from Amy. She is she's at the hospital. Apparently there's a family emergency, so that explains.
Oh, goodness.
That.
Yes.
So maybe several of these will have to
Move to the next meeting.
table. Yeah. Unless there's some that you want to comment on. Like 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, Rick, can I tell you some things that I need?
Yeah.
So 11, I need to know more, or not 11, 9, the CareWise audits. I need more context around what that question is.
Mhm.
And then, did the 10, 11, 12, and 13 also come from Amy?
Yeah.
Okay,
they did.
13, I also need clarification because I'm not sure if she meant FMA Fiscal Management Agency applications, which is related to PDS, or if she's actually talking about Medicaid applications. So I need clarification about what that agenda item actually was looking to be addressed.
Okay, number 14. We know that the House has allocated some money, I think it was $92 million for rate,
Waiver.
rate increases for the redesign. I guess you can't comment on any of this, can you, Pam? Or what's, well, tell us again what the kind of timeline we are on redesign and rate study and waiver regulation. Is there anything else to
So
report?
I can't really, so I can, okay, let me tell you the things I can tell you.
Okay,
The waiver redesign, so the first group, of the amended applications went to CMS, and so they are in review. That was the one that made changes that were in Appendix K permanent,
Right.
that also made the temporary rate increases permanent.
right.
So those are with CMS right now. We've received official approval back on Model 2. We had requests for information, had some questions back on the others. And those have been answered and so they're back with CMS again. Regulations, we are starting to work on changes to the regulations. So we're working on that right now. But you're right, as far as the rate study and the budget's not final yet. Anybody that's part of that program, has been part of that process before, knows there's a whole lot more that happens before we will really know what our final budget looks like. So there's nothing really that we can comment on about any of the versions of the budget, but there is still a plan for us to, the rates that were put in through Appendix K were temporary, and the plan is still that we will get to a finalized rate based on the rate study, but I don't have a timeline for that.
Right, and if I'm correct, I may have heard you at the MAC meeting, among the, or before, among the goals of the redesign is to bring more consistency between the SEL and Michelle P.
Yeah.
It's to bring consistency among all of the
All
regulations,
the
right? So that we
okay.
don't have a service like respite have 5 different definitions, or be
Yeah.
called,
Right.
Or you have attendant care, that service and something similar be called, 4 different names. So it's about, so that is still one of the fundamental goals of redesign. There's a lot that went into, and we can with participant direction and about how, expanding that. But a lot of making it consistent among the waivers where it can be. Now, we realize that each waiver serves a unique population, so there will be things that you don't make consistent, but where we can have consistency, the goal is to have consistency so that it is less burdensome for the providers, and that providers that desire to serve more than one population are able to do that.
Well, let me make sure I'm understand this. The public comment for waiver redesign, do you have a goal for that in terms of time?
So what will happen is, when we do the regulations, when we redo the regulations, there'll be public comment associated with that. There will be public comment that is associated with the because we'll have to redo the waiver applications again to make the rates permanent, to make we could not make a lot of changes to, for example, like the service names, we could not change this time because we're still under the maintenance of effort until, all of the FMAP funds are expended. So there'll be changes to those that have to happen again, and there'll be public comment attached to that. As we begin to work on the wait list, there'll be, opportunities for public comment for things around that. As we look at, we're wrapping up the children's feasibility study. There'll be opportunity to review that final document and make comments about that. So there will be many more opportunities for comment as we continue through this process.
Well, let me ask this. Waiver redesign and rate study, do those have to be done, simultaneously? Does one depend on the other?
No,
They're not going to be done separately?
No, it's a component waiver. When you talk about redesign, it's really about continuous quality improvement of the waivers. It's something we should be striving for, and we do continuously, to look at the waivers and to make changes and to make improvements. Rates are a component of that.
Yeah.
So will they be done at the same time?
So
No,
will
they will not.
Will they be done in one package, or will they be tackled separately?
So we will make we will strive to make as many changes to the applications at one time that we can. So anything that requires a change to the waiver application. So there will be pieces, but like I said, the waivers, it's continuous quality improvement. We'll always be looking at ways to make the waivers better. So it'll be ongoing. So yes, we will do as much as we can at the same time, but we're not going to delay one for another.
Okay, that's, and so,
I think
for
that's probably
example,
what you wanted to do, right?
the effort to bring more consistency among the definitions. Do you,
That's a change that can happen easily that we already have done a lot of work on.
okay, so we should see public comment on that coming.
That would be in when the waivers, because that will have to go in the waiver application. So you will see that, yes. As well as you will see it in the regulations because they're defined in the regulations.
Okay, and then tell me when that would be. Give me an.
I don't have a timeline right now,
Okay,
Rick.
all right. All right. Okay. Okay. January MAC meeting report I attended. One of the things that occurred was that there was a description of the 1915C waivers because they talk about that a lot at these meetings and people didn't understand what they were. And Pam and the commissioner explained what SCL was and all these other waivers. So that was good. The unwinding of Medicaid. I believe she said that the number of denials have decreased to 1,200 a month. Does anyone out there have issues with the Medicaid denials as part of this changeover? We have about 4 people that are pending. Anybody else have a comment on that? But it seems to be going okay. We're not. Oh, there's Johnny's got his hands up.
Hey, Rick, it was actually just a question about the previous, not the unwinding, but the previous one, the rate study.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, that's okay. It's a question for Pam. Pam, it's my understanding the rate study has been completed and the cabinet is just, there's a wait or decisions to be made about what to
It is with executive staff way above me.
with the recommendations and
Right.
so
correct.
but it is the study itself has been completed. So my question is, can that be made public? Understanding decisions have yet to be made on the data and the report, but it is complete. So is there a way that this committee or
It is
the
up
public can
to,
see the
again,
study?
I can ask, but it is beyond my decision to be able to release whether I can release it or not, but I will follow up.
Sure, thanks. I just, there's a lot of questions around it and it ties into, access to services and provider capacity. I think everyone's excited about the prospect of, increased funding for waiver slots in this, budget bill. But there's also growing concern about, okay, the waiver slots are going to be increased and more people are going to get services, but from who? And providers are closing, providers can't keep staff. And so that's I'm hearing more and more buzz about that. So that's why I'm just asking not to bug you about it, but the rate study is important, and if it's going to be used to implement rate adjustments, higher reimbursement rates, which would presumably allow providers to, stabilize the workforce and recruit and hire and retain more workers, then I guess that, that's the importance of it. So that's the reason I'm asking.
Well, I can tell you, Johnny, that the chair of the MAC is very Dr. Sheila Schuster is also interested in these kind of the question you just posed. So
Yes.
I'll bring it up at the next MAC meeting as well.
Yeah, thank you. And and I understand, Pam, that's, you're not authorized to, share information about it, but yeah, if you don't mind, asking, could the completed study be made public,
I will
understanding
bring forth, yes,
decisions have not been made?
I will
Okay,
bring forth that
all right.
request, Johnny.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much.
And then another agenda item at the MAC meeting was mobile crisis development. Pam, is that going to be strictly for people with behavioral health issues, or does that include our population as well?
It is individuals that have those diagnoses, but it could include it could serve our individuals, any of our individuals that have mental illness and have
Mhm.
some of those that have those services.
That might
But
have
I
a big-
don't have, but I also, since it wasn't on the agenda, we don't have the right people here really to, it is not, that is outside of my realm of
Right, right.
really, I haven't worked on it a lot, and so we would need, if you want to add that to the agenda for next time, I can make sure we have somebody here that can speak to it.
Yes, I will do that. I will do that because that's a resource that we need to know about. Waiting lists.
Okay,
Have that
so
info.
yes, I do. Let me bring it up so that I can look at it. And we actually have some, Aaron, can I share? Can you let me, Aaron, will you give me screen share?
ma'am. Give me just a second. You should now be a co-host.
Okay. When you're used to working on multiple screens, going to just a laptop is really hard. Just the laptop screen is difficult. Okay. Are you all seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to, and we can share this, but I want to let me put this, move this a little bit. This is more detailed information than what we usually give. It's really good information though. So these are numbers as of 2/1. So there are 8,839 people on the Michelle P. waiting list. There are 3,410 on SCL. You can see in the overlap that there are 2,102 that are both on the SCL and the Michelle P. waiting list. We have some individuals so 299 individuals on the SCL waiting list are already receiving, or are on the Michelle P. waiting list, are already receiving SCL services. There's 2,200, a little over 2,200 that are receiving HCB services that are on the Michelle P. waiting list. So of the 8,839 that are on this list, 5,183 they may be eligible and receiving other services such as state plan and EPSDT. So the waiting list doesn't mean they are not getting any type of service.
Right.
Same thing with SCL, that there are, a little over 1,600 of those individuals that are getting Michelle P. services. There are a little over 400 that are getting HCB services. So if you look at, there's 10,829 unduplicated individuals on both lists together. 4,685 of those are getting services in another waiver. So 43% of those individuals are getting services on another waiver while they remain on the wait list. When you look at the breakdown, the breakdown, so for Michelle P., again, that under 21 or up to the age of 21. So that's, we look at that because they can receive EPSDT services with the EPSDT benefit if they're medically necessary in a child. There are 73% of the individuals that are on the Michelle P. wait list that fall into that bucket. 27% are over 21. So for SCL, of course, you're going to see the flip-flop of that. Most of these, if actually not all of these individuals that are in the younger age groups on SCL or on that future planning list. So, are those individuals that have just signed up because, they're getting everything they need right now. They're not asking for services. They just want to say, put me on this list for later. I know that services are going to be needed later. So if you look at the breakout between the two waivers, 22% are under the age of 18 and 77% are over 18.
Could we go back to the first slide, Pam?
Yes.
Wow, is that helpful?
Yes, and I will thank our colleagues,
good for you.
We did, specifically Kathy Lerza. I know that she couldn't
Yeah.
attend today, but she she's been putting this put this together for us. And so we've been taking very intent look at the wait list. I know that BDID has been specifically really looking at the urgent number on the SCL wait list, and that number, I don't have that called out right here, but that number has gone down as well. So we've been really focusing on these. I'll get to the, let me go on down to let's talk about the allocation. So right now there's 4,491 slots approved for SCL. There are 100 additional slots that are pending CMS approval. So that is in the waiver applications that we're waiting on CMS to approve. So that'll take us up to 4,591. And again, allocation is done based on urgency of need, and that's outlined in the regulation for SCL. So when emergency criteria is met, that's why we hold on to those slots. That's why we have available slots, and you still see individuals on the waiting list, is that we want to make sure those individuals that maybe are aging out of DCBS care or that have a catastrophic event, they lose their caregivers, that we have a slot that they can go into. For Michelle P., so there's an additional 100 slots, so that'll take us up to 10,600 that are pending final CMS approval. We are making allocations monthly. We recently transitioned the management of the wait list to BDID, and so we had been allocating every 90 days, and we had discussions and changed that to allocating monthly. That allows for the CMHCs to be able to plan better, so that they can do those assessments. It's not such an influx of individuals all at one time. But I will tell you, out of the number that we allocate every month, at least 50% of those never go on to receive services because either we can't find them or they don't know what Michelle P is, have no desire for Michelle P, don't know how they got on the wait list. So it takes, even with allocating monthly, so 75 a month, and the allocations that we've done in years prior, since 2018, we've been allocating every 90 days to 6 months in Michelle P, and we've not got up to our full capacity yet. And that is largely because each time we allocate, only about 50% of those individuals go on to actually receive services.
Yeah, I remember back a few years ago when they had a huge backlog on the allocations, and I think maybe 1 out of 10 were actually interested and eligible, but 50%. So it takes you a good bit of time to determine their whether they really want the service and if they're eligible, correct?
Well, it's a lot of that time is on the individual actually taking the steps that they need to request the assessment. So we've made some changes in how we're doing that, and that we, reach out to the CMHCs so the CMHCs know sooner who the person is. So instead of waiting for the person to get the letter and reach out to them, they contact the individual to schedule the assessment. But sometimes it's taking them multiple attempts to either get in contact with the individual or actually do the assessment because the individual says, they'll put it off, or they will, they'll cancel last minute. Things happen. That's going to happen. But some of these individuals are canceling 3, 4, 5 times. So we have available slots in both of the waivers, and we are, for SCL, we're allocating on that emergency basis. For Michelle P, we're allocating every every month, 75 individuals, but you'll see we still are not getting up to, we still aren't getting up to our full capacity number. So.
Well, what you've got going there with SCL, I think is working very well. I mean, that you never have anybody on the emergency list is that's great.
And we are reviewing the wait list processing. That's part of the whole, something that we've been talking about, that that we want to review how that is done to make it consistent, so that there is a process for individuals, regardless of what type of wait list you may be on, that there's a process that if you are somebody that needs services urgently, maybe you're not getting services at all, and you need them, your situation changes and you need those sooner, versus maybe a child who has parents who are able to care for them, maybe has other insurance, there's just different situations. So we're looking at how do we make the waitlist process better as well right now. And we're looking at, modeling it more like what we do with SCL, because that works very well. We're able to ensure individuals that have those catastrophic needs are actually getting those services. And we're also doing an analysis of, we're diving deeper into the individuals that are on the wait list to see, okay, why are you not accessing these other state plan services that are available to you? What is the barrier? What can we do to take away that? Because it may be that meets their needs, at least at the moment, that may meet what they need. So we're really taking a holistic look at the wait list and the individuals that currently are on the wait list.
So if I understand you correctly, on the Michelle P waiting list, you are thinking about, I guess, creating categories of the most need on
We're
that
looking
list, rather than chronologically.
right. As of right now,
Yeah.
SCL is the only one that has, brain injury has a slightly different process, but it's not exactly like SCL. But HCB and Michelle P, for example, it is chronological order. So we're looking at what other states are doing. We're looking at, what would make that process better, so that we can ensure that the individuals that have the highest need are able to access those services. And also looking at, that individuals understand what is available to them, that it's not just the waiver services.
Well,
I
I
believe
think
Johnny has his hand up again, I think.
Yeah, and when you draft something, obviously you're going to share that with us.
Exactly. That's
people.
one of the
Yeah.
things I talked about that will be shared, that people will be able to comment on. Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. And let's go back to the first slide one more time. I really suggest you share that with the MAC.
We are going to, we did not have, so that will be the next time, we will, share that. And Aaron, I'll get this over to you and Kelly so that this can be shared, as well. But this is how we're going to begin reporting the wait list information, because I think it just has a lot of value. There's a lot of valuable information there, because when you hear the numbers are still shocking, don't hear me saying that they're not, they are still shocking. But when you look at it in full picture of what, that there are some individuals, they may be on a wait list, but they're being served. The next layer that we're looking at is Medicaid eligibility, as well as the individuals that also have third-party insurance coverage available. So it's not just that someone is on a wait list, not receiving or not able to receive any type of services.
The fact that there are 299 people who have the SCL waiver who are okay, but they're still wanting.
There is something mystical about Michelle P waiver. I've yet to figure it out, but there is something about that, because we'll reach out to those individuals and say, do you want to remain on the waiting list? Because for most people, the goal is either their needs are sufficiently met on Michelle P and they don't want to leave Michelle P, and that's fine. If their needs are met on Michelle P, then, obviously they do not have to change. But most people, it's meant kind of as a transition to SCL, or it's meant to meet the needs while they are waiting on SCL. You know, maybe they haven't got to that emergency, you know, that category yet. They're being served, but their main goal is to get on SCL. These individuals, we've reached out to them and they do not want to be removed from the wait list. So we will not take someone off the wait list, if they
But
do
it-
not want
it's
to be
good- it's
removed.
good to
If
see
they
the
don't
right- that
request to be
number.
removed, we
Yeah.
will not remove them from the wait list.
Yeah, but that,
But yes, there is something there about, you know, that I think that says something. It's, you know, why. But we have to get through, just so you to understand. So even these, you know, all of these individuals that are currently receiving services, so we still have to get through those allocations. So it may be we allocate and they decide, no, I don't want services anymore. But that process, that still takes the full amount of time, because we have to give them the opportunity
Yeah.
if they're allocated a slot.
right. But again, that gives us a more accurate picture of who is really on the Michelle waiting list. Right.
Yes.
So, right. So that's helpful. So to summarize, I think we are going to try to find some more members of the MAC. And Johnny, you thought you could help with that, and Melanie, correct?
Sure.
Particularly looking
Yes.
for people who also do the person directed. On these, we're going to work on a survey to get more information about people who have been terminated, and send that out to all providers. And that survey, I suppose, I can work on and maybe involve Amy as well, or anyone else. And let's see. Seemed like there was one other thing that we. Oh, and then put mobile crisis on the agenda for next time.
And
Rick, Johnny
Yes.
and Melanie both have their hands
Okay,
raised.
I'm
I wasn't
sorry.
sure whose
Yeah.
hand went up first, though.
Yeah.
Johnny's did.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question about wait lists, Pam. The people who are on the SCL wait list in the urgent category, would they, you know, it is good that we don't have an emergency wait list, but people who are deemed to be in urgent need of services still wait and hang on until something tragic occurs, a death of a caregiver, a homelessness, you know, on the verge of institutionalization. So, you know, something horrible has to happen still before, you know, the person is getting allocated, you know, waiver funding. So I guess my question is, if the budget, the expanded slots in the budget, 250 a year for SCL, for example, would those slots be used or be allocated to people in the urgent category?
We're looking at that,
Or-
so we're having discussions about that. We have talked about that. I will tell you, most of the individuals in that urgent category are receiving services
Oh, wow.
through a different waiver, but we are looking at that, and you know, depending on what the final numbers look like, you know, it honestly is this big balancing game to make sure that we don't lose, you know, it's what number is the right number to save for emergencies versus you want to serve as many people as you can. But we are talking about that and looking at that, and to see, you know, when we get the final approved number of slots, you know, is there a certain number? Can we allocate all of them? Is there a certain number that we can allocate? And it'll just, you know, we're also looking at, you know, previous years, how many did we, trending out the number of emergencies that we've had, you know, how many, because the last thing we want to do is have a wait list and have somebody that has a catastrophic event not have a slot. But we also don't want to be holding on to slots when we could be serving people. So we're looking at a lot of data and talking through that with BDID on, what is the right numbers look like. But yeah, our goal would be
No.
to try to serve some of those individuals.
Thank you. And then also into the equation, hopefully, the new approach where the cabinet can allocate vacant slots, when a participant passes away.
And that's
There's
already,
that
yes, so
step
that's
on.
been in place now for several months. So we've been doing that. So now immediately, when a participant passes away, that slot is reallocated. It goes into that bucket to be reallocated.
Great. Hats off to you for
Yeah.
doing that. I think that's great. And two, that would be, helpful. Two, I guess, in your equation, trying to figure out how many slots to hold in reserve, knowing that there will be some added on throughout the course of a waiver year due to unfortunate, deaths. But okay, well, thank you. I just wanted to ask that question about folks in the urgent category.
Melanie?
Yes, and thank you, Pam. This is amazing, and I bet it's a hard job to complete. But thank you, and thank you for sharing it with us. The one thing I had when I worked in developmental peds at UK, we had one of our older patients. The mother died, and the father was not capable of caring for them, and it was my first experience with trying to put them on the emergency list or get help, and I had to reach out to the community mental health centers, and I had to eventually reach out to a person by the name of April Proctor. I think she's somebody up in your all's world, but it was very difficult to get contact with someone to say, help me to, navigate this, to be able to get the individual to the next step, because clearly the individual had significant intellectual disability and was living in not a very healthy situation, and receiving services on the Michelle P, but was really needing to go to a different kinds of waiver service. And it was really difficult to get that through. And I didn't know if their job descriptions had been revised somewhat, because it was really difficult to get in contact with somebody to get the support that this individual needed. So
We're working, yeah, I will tell you, the team that we work with right now has been phenomenal at, if somebody reaches out to us and says, because I know, Melanie, you've done that before too, that we immediately send something to them. I know they are great about reaching out immediately, but we're also working on some more of those. I think you've heard us refer to them as, what does this mean to me? Or those one-pager documents that actually are sometimes 3 or 4 pages, but that can be out there for individuals that, okay, this has happened to me, now what? Or I have this question, now what? So that it really will guide individuals through what they need to do. And that it's very easy, kind of a step-by-step. This is who you call. We continually work on our the who to call list, which I believe is posted on our website. That is really, we try to add to that and refine that so you can look at individuals. It's categorized, kind of by, eligibility questions or service questions, so that you have a question, okay, I need services immediately, or I have to renew my eligibility. Who do I call? Really trying to get individuals links directly to the individuals that they need to call, so that there's not kind of this, I hate, and my team knows this, and I have a phenomenal team that does this, the ping pong game. So I don't want individuals to call somebody and say, oh, well, you need to call this person. So we're really trying to work on how do we make those connections and help individuals get those contacts, so that they're able to make that connection the first time and not have to go through, 2 or 3 different people.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and appreciate that. It's just some of these families have a limited ability to navigate sometimes a very complex system.
It is a very complex system. I would agree. And so we want to try to cut down on any complexity as much as we can, and provide those resources while also trying to promote, independence of the individuals and a feeling of control of what is going on in their life and what they want to see for their life.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or new business? I thought that was a very good meeting. Thank you, Pam, for all the good information. And if not, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.